How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Bass Central podcast. Today we got legend in bass fishing and Missouri native Stacey King on to talk about fishing in the Ozarks and how the cold front has affected things and kind of just how it's going to affect the whole year throughout things and maybe preview some college tournaments. So really happy to have you on, Stacey.
I appreciate it, Cole. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah. So first off, since this is kind of a big and current topic, is the a lot of the country has been affected by this big cold front that we've had, and it's definitely going to affect things now and in the future. Just with the water temp now is probably colder than it has been in years. I mean, water's in the mid 30s some places, and I haven't seen that for a long time, and that's going to create a big shad kill and things. So um, over the fishing over the next couple weeks, what do you think is going to be the biggest effect from this cold front?
Well, it's really going to slow things down for the time being, but, we're starting to have some pretty mild weather right now, too. So I think the quicker that it warms up, the quicker the fishing is going to bounce back. But when you get your water temperature 30, 40s, it takes for it to get back up there. Even if the surface temperature warms up a little bit, still the water below there is pretty darn cold, and your fish are going to be sluggish and not very active. So it's going to take a while. I mean, I think we're in basically what I'd call a setback because I'm thinking about last year this time. We hadn't had much winter, and I was catching a lot of fish relatively shallow, and they were a lot more active and aggressive. You catch them on different kinds of baits, and now I think it's going to be a lot harder for a while. And it will come, but it's going to take a little while to do it. We just haven't seen this kind of long term weather. All Table Rock here for where I live, for instance, has had a lot of the creeks and the backs of the coves have frozen over, and you don't see that very often. I have seen it, a few times in years past, but it doesn't happen very often. And typically, when that happens, you have a shad die off, and the fish have an easy time finding prey when you have that big shad die off, and it makes them harder to catch on artificial lures. That's for sure, because it's easy for them to go out and get a mouthful of food, and they don't need much food to survive this time of year because they're not active, not moving around a lot, not burning a lot of energy. So they don't need a lot of food, but they still will eat. So I'm not saying you can't catch fish, but it's just not going to be as easy.
Right. And I remember, last year the BFL that was in February took 19 and a half pounds, and there was an anglers in action around the same time that took 24. There was bags out to 20, 30th place that were pretty good. So last year was
And not
definitely
only that, they caught them a lot of different ways. The fish
right.
were just active and aggressive, and they caught them on shad imitations, crawfish imitations, whatever. And right now, I have a feeling I haven't really been fishing much because it's been so darn cold, but I'm getting ready to really start and do a lot of fishing. And I've got a feeling that it's going to take slow, finesse presentation, with shad imitations, maybe some crawfish imitations too. But even when the water's this cold, your crawfish don't come out from under the rocks and move around much. A
Hmm.
bass may be able to root around and get them, but again, that's expending energy that they don't like to do right now. So probably eating a small dying shad is about the easiest way for them to get something to eat right now.
Right. And with this, I was thinking about, how this would affect the fishing, and for somewhere like Table Rock that has a lot of good smallmouth in it, it kind of seems like it might be a good opportunity for the smallmouth fishing to shine a little bit because they're a little bit more active in this colder water and might be a little bit more aggressive. Do you think that could be the case over the maybe next couple tournaments that happen since the
Oh, I
water?
wouldn't be surprised. If you're a good smallmouth angler, it's like fishing for them, and you're good at catching them. That's something to key on right now for sure. Because one thing about it is Table Rock has really become a prolific smallmouth lake. It's really changed over the years. In the last few years, it's really gotten a lot better. And there's a lot of quality smallmouth in here right now. So if you can get on a good small pattern, catching 15, 16, 17 pounds is not unreasonable at all. And maybe even, there were days last spring. We had a tremendous spring here last year. on smallmouth when they really got active, and I had some 20-pound days. Maybe not necessarily all by myself, but me with another guy or two in the boat with me. We'd catch five that would weigh 20 pounds,
All
and
smallmouth.
that's yeah, all smallmouth. That's good smallmouth for this lake.
Yeah.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few in here now. There's a lot of smallmouth in the 2 to 3 pound class. Quite a few fours, and the occasional 5 or 5 plus. And so that's good smallmouth fishing anywhere you are in the country. So,
Yeah.
and we had a few years there. There were several years back in the early 2000s after the largemouth bass kill that we had in like 98 or 99, that the smallmouth and spotted bass really did well, and they grew big, and we caught a lot of really big ones at that time. And then it kind of went back, the cycle went back the other way, and we caught a lot of small ones for a few years. And now they're kind of, seems to me like they're on an upswing again right now. We're catching more quality fish, and there's a lot of them. So it's just great fishing. It's great smallmouth fishing here right now,
Yeah.
and I love to catch them. So
Yeah, they're fun to catch for sure. And the past couple of years, you said the smallmouth population seems to be going up in size and numbers. Do you think that's working with largemouth? You think the population size is going down of those at all?
I don't know that it's really going down, uh, but we haven't had the quality largemouth in this lake that we used to for quite some time. We've got, there's a lot of good largemouth in the lake, don't misunderstand me, but we don't have the 5 to 8 pound fish like we used to have. We used to have lots more fish in the 5 to 8 pound range, with a few nines coming in every year, and you rarely see them anymore. You see one once in a while, but not too many. And I think a lot of it is due to the fact that it's just an aging lake. The cover's deteriorating, and the water's cleared. It doesn't, it's not as turbid as it used to be, and the fish. I don't know. There may be a lot. I've got a few friends that are really good deep fishermen, and they think that there's a lot of really big largemouth living real deep year round out here,
Hmm.
and that's probably true. They probably are. They with the threadfin shad, populations. They are typically an offshore bait fish, and maybe the bass just stay out in deep water year round, and they're hard to catch. They come in once in a while, and you can catch a few of them, but it's not something you can do on a daily basis.
Right. And I've heard that from some guides that are saying that since there hasn't been a shad kill in multiple years, there's just so many shad in the lake right now that those bigger largemouth never need to move shallow. So there's a lot less of them that are, shallow to be caught. They're a lot harder to
Right.
catch because they're a lot deeper. So, some guys say they're still in the lake. They're just a lot harder to catch. And the shad kill could, take down a big number of these shad and make less food for the bass out deep to where they have to move up shallow and focus more on crawfish and, sunfish, bluegill. And so more of them will be caught, maybe in the next
And
year or two.
that could be, I hope it's the case, because I'd like to see some of those big ones moving in where you get at
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be nice. And there's still a lot of big ones caught every year. Just not as
Oh,
many.
there is, but not as many real big ones. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
we've
Like
got a
you're
lot of
saying.
quality fish, but Table Rock's a unique lake. I mean, it's been good since the get go. I mean, it's changed. The fishing's changed here a lot, but it's still a wonderful fishery. I mean, it's just so diverse with the largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. You've got so many different opportunities here, and it's you've got all different kinds of. If you like to fish deep, clear water, you got lots of that. If you like to go to the rivers and fish shallow and dirtier water, you got that. So there's a lot of different ways. Fish been a good place to learn how to bass fish, overall, because it's just so diverse.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. So, I mean, with it being so cold and there's, multiple tournaments coming up this weekend throughout the Ozarks, and there's a, uh Toyota Series next week on Lake the Ozarks. What if you could have a single bait to shine? Since this water is going to be from 34 to 40 degrees. If you had to pick one bait that you think would shine the most in this really cold water, what do you think it would be?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a pretty much a fanatic of swim baits this time of year, or an Alabama rig. If you like to throw an Alabama rig, you can't hardly beat it. I mean, it's a bait that catches numbers, it catches big bass, and whether or not it's working in this extremely cold water, I don't know. I haven't been out there throwing it, but if I just had one bait to go out and throw and wanted to catch some quality fish, it'd probably be an Alabama rig.
Yeah, I mean, it is always hard to beat, I guess, no matter
It is
what
hard to beat.
temperature.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of it because it hurts my shoulders to throw it very often, but I do throw it. And I catch fish on it. First couple of years it came out, I caught a ton of big ones on it. But I was using big heavy rods and big heavy everything heavy, and
Mhm.
heavy baits on my Alabama rig. We didn't know it better. We just learned about it. Man, it killed me to throw that thing all day long. And I've gone to found a rod that I like, a lighter rod that I like a lot better, and a smaller reel, and a little old rig that's not nearly as heavy, and the weights are not as heavy, so it's easier now, and it still catches good fish. So I enjoy it when they're biting.
Right, right. And I was out on the lake the other day, and I did throw it around a little bit because it pretty much always works. But I had the problem of a lot of fish just being so slow. They weren't following it. They would trail it a little bit, and then they kind of back off. They wouldn't get after it really. So I mean, that could be good for maybe finesse situations to do a little bit better. So if you had a finesse situation in this cold water.
Well, I mean, I like a small swim bait for one thing. That's one of my favorite uh, cold water techniques is like a 3 inch swim, 2.8 or 3 inch swim bait, like a Bass Pro Speed Shad in 3 inch, a good shad color. That's a good bait. I like to just slow roll that thing, and it'll catch real quality fish this time of year. There's some other techniques. Floating fly is good. I've never got into it big time. I've done it on and off for years, but I've never really experienced a lot of tremendous fishing with it, and I know a lot of guys catch them on that. And there's other techniques that work good. I love the jig fish. That's probably one of my favorite ways to catch fish on a finesse jig this time of year. But now when it's this cold, I don't know. It's just something the guys got to experiment. You got to try different techniques until you get something going.
Right, and like you said, the crawfish, they might not be moving around very much in and out of those rocks since it's been so cold. And with
That's
the
right.
shad kill that's going on, that could be, make that swim bait or float and fly a bigger player. Since they're more focused on shad, maybe. The few fish that I caught the other day, I mean, it seems like all of them are fat and they're all spitting up shad.
Oh
So
yeah, it's easy for them to get them. So it's the easier it is for the bass to get full on shad, the harder it is for him to want to go out and bite an artificial lure. You know what I'm saying?
right, yeah, yeah, I might make it tough fishing for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all going to depend on how fast it warms up. Weather wise, if and how fast the water temperature starts coming up. If we have an extended period of time where it doesn't warm much, fishing's not going to be real easy for a while. But if we do get, say, if we get 4 or 5 days of 70 to 75 degree weather, which we will eventually, then it'll start popping.
right. And with these fish, eating all these dying shad and, they're not having to move very far for them. Do you think there's a potential to see bigger than average bags this year being caught in the pre-spawn because the fish will be so fat?
Oh yeah, they're going to be fat. I don't know that they'll be bigger than average. I mean, we typically always catch big weight bags this time of year. You're going to catch your biggest bags this time of the year, but the fish will be fat, and there'll be nice bags of fish caught in some tournaments coming up. You can bet that Anglers in Action on Saturday, there'll be, I don't know how many boats they'll have, but there'll be enough boats that some of the guys will find them and catch some fish. Probably be a few stringers, and then they'll drop off pretty quick. That's the way it typically is. But
Yeah.
there'll be some good stringers caught.
Yeah. Last year, I think it took 24 and a half to win this tournament in February, which, like you said, fishing was a little different this time last year, but there's definitely some guys that can catch them. And,
Oh,
with the
we got a lot
BFL.
of good fishermen around this area.
Yeah, definitely. And the BFL last weekend on Table Rock was canceled, and there's a lot of guys just probably itching to fish. So I'm sure this will
Oh yeah,
be a lot of guys in this tournament.
everybody's wanting to fish. That's for sure. I heard that what tournament was it? I think it was at BFL. Somebody told me that they had a tremendous amount of entries in that tournament. And they had to cancel it because of the weather, but I think they had a bunch of entries in that. And then I think the Toyota on Lake of the Ozarks has got a lot of entries in it. These guys wanting to fish, and I don't blame them. I am too.
Yeah, especially after the past couple weeks not being able to get on the lake and stuff.
I'm telling you, I sit up here and look out there I sit up on a hill overlooking the lake, and I look out there at it and think, man, I want to be out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think today is the first day that, guys are getting on Palm de Terre and Lake of the Ozarks. I saw some pictures on Facebook of some guys that made it out on the lake, and it's finally getting unthawed enough to where, you can get on the ramp and get out there.
I heard the Lake of the Ozarks was so low that it's hard to get in up there on the ramp. So I
Yeah, I
haven't.
think 9 feet, 8 or 9
What's that?
feet.
That's about as low as it ever gets, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they try not to fluctuate it too much with all the docks that are on the lake, but
Yeah.
it's pretty low.
That'll be different kind of fishing up there with it being that low. I mean, it should concentrate them. If you can figure out something, there should be a lot of fish in some area.
Right. That makes a big potential for a guy, winning the tournament off one or two spots. He finds the
It
right
could.
the right group of them. So I've definitely
That's
seen
for
that done
sure.
before on Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some big ones there.
Yeah, it's a fun lake to fish. I love fishing up there. I don't go up there too often, but usually a couple trips a year, and I've always loved that lake and done fairly well there over the years. So I enjoy fishing up there.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun place to fish. A lot of good quality fish in that lake.
Yeah.
So, so I had a question back to that smallmouth fishing that you said. Some of those days you had 20+ pound bags of smallmouth. What are some key lures throughout the spring catching the smallmouth?
Probably my number one lure is that swim bait. A single swim bait, either a 3 inch or a 4 inch swim bait, just slow rolling it out there on those gravel flats. When those fish move up on those gravel flats, they love that swim bait. Now I catch them on other stuff too. The jerk baits can be really good out there, and catch them on jigs. And a Ned rig is a bait that you can go out and catch smallmouth after smallmouth after smallmouth on, and catch a lot of good ones on it. And I
Hmm.
catch a lot of them on a tube too. I catch a lot of really good quality smallmouth on a tube. And those are some of the key baits that I like to use when they first start moving in travel. Uh, they when the smallmouth first really come up in waves to move onto the flats, that's when you catch your biggest ones. If you're able to fish quite often, you'll hit one of those days when they first move up, and that's when you catch a number of big fish. And then after that, the big fish kind of scatter, and you won't catch as many big ones, but you catch lots of them. And that fishing will just be good for a month. They'll move up sometime in late March, around the 1st of April. I always used to say April 1st is my target date for those big ones to be up there. They're generally always up there by April 1st. And then, the next 2 or 3 weeks after that until they spawn, that's great fishing here.
So where do you think they come from right before they move up on those gravel flats?
Well, some of them live out on those rocky points all year long, and some of them just probably suspend out in open water. I think a lot. Again, we get back to the thing about the fish suspending in open water here on this lake, and I think they just swim around out there. And when a school of bait fish comes by, they get something to eat. But when they start getting the spawning herds, then they start moving in shallower. And of course, they're feeding up heavy at that time, and that's when you can catch them. So I think they just move in, move up or move in, depending on what kind of a structure they're on, or if they're in open water, they just start moving in.
Right. So like right now, it's the last week of February pretty much, and um, they're maybe not quite to moving up to those flats area, but I mean, would somewhere good to look be, find those big flats where you think smallmouth are going to be, and then look for, a big point that's close by, or maybe where the channel drops into the channel, or rock piles out deep.
Sure, a lot of the flats will have a ditch running out through them, with a couple of points on one point on each side of it. May have some rock on it or something. That'd be a good place to look. They may suspend out off that point and ease in there and feed a little bit on the point and then back off again, or anything like that. Any kind of structure. A rock pile is always good for smallmouth. If you can find a rock pile out in deep water, there's going to be some live around there somewhere. And and there's so many of them in this lake. I mean, they find them. You find them in the timber, like where you find largemouth too. I mean, there'll be some smallmouth scattered in there with those largemouth and spotted bass occasionally. And I know a lot of the guys that spend a lot of time deep vertical fishing this winter caught a lot of good smallmouth out mixed in with the spots, and good largemouth too. So it's just, but they'll hold on places like that before they move up on those slabs on points and breaks and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, we have a college tournament. It's a Major League Fishing, just one of in our division. It's on Table Rock March 26th. So that's really close to that April 1st date that you say there's big ones are starting to move up.
Yeah, they'll be there. They'll be up there. Some of them then, and it may get a little better a week after that, depending on how fast it warms up from this cold weather. But by the 26th of March, that's 3 or 4 weeks off. That's 4 weeks off. They're going to be a bunch of fish up and a bunch of good smallmouth up there, and they'll be catchable. And that's a time. I've told people all my life. I've got it on Table Rock since I was a kid, and I've always told people, if you want to come here and catch the biggest bass you've ever caught in your life, come in March. If you want to come and catch the most fish you've ever caught in your life, come in April. That's just kind of the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there by the 26th of March, there'll be some big bags of fish caught one way or the other.
Right. And so would you recommend, guys targeting smallmouth in that tournament?
Probably not. I've always, I don't think at that time you probably can't typically win on smallmouth. You might, but you probably typically can't. But you might need a smallmouth or two in your bag to finish out to win. You're going to have 2 or 3 big largemouth, because there's going to be some big largemouth up and active at that time too. It might be hard to catch 5 of them, so you may need to have your backup. I would say you're going to have your largemouth pattern and have a backup pattern with the smallmouth, to really feel like you can do good.
What do you think the best largemouth pattern would be at that time? Do you think they'd still be trying to fish timber like they're in now?
Probably so. Timber, they're going to be just moving up, and they'll be on the same types of places, in the timber, but they'll be getting closer to spawning areas. I mean, you're going to, but typically always timber, those big ones like to suspend around the cedar. I mean, on Table Rock that has the cover under the water, the cedars and hardwoods, those big bass like to suspend around that stuff. And that time of the year, a bait Alabama rig or a jerk bait or something like that will catch the biggest ones. But there'll be by the 26th of March, there'll be a crankbait bite too. They'll be on a wiggle wart stand. And so there's going to be a lot of varied ways to catch them at that time of year.
Yeah, definitely, especially with all the numbers of fish in Table Rock. Catch them
Yeah,
lots of
really.
different ways.
Yeah. And there'll be some luck come into play, who catches that 6-7 pounder, but the guys that have 5 quality fish are the ones that are going to be up close to the top.
Right. And we had a tournament, I think around the same time last year, and it was I think it was a calm, sunny day pretty much. And I think 18 and a half or 19 pounds won. And there was multiple, I mean, probably 10 bags that were over 15, 16 pounds. So it was still pretty decent for being a calm, sunny day.
Yeah. Well, that's the toughest kind of day you can have on Table Rock, when it's still and bright. But there's the thing about it is they're just all the fish in the lake are going to be moving up, and there'll be lots of them up there by that time of year. So the guys that just figure out an area that a bunch of them move into, and what to throw to catch them, that's the ones that are going to do good.
Yeah, definitely. So what tournaments are you going to be fishing this spring?
Well, I'm not going to travel as much this year, with the COVID thing, and just I'm getting too old for all hard miles. I put so many in over the last 30, 40 years. But I'm going to fish some team tournaments with my buddy Mike Roller. We're going to fish some OMTTs, and we might fish a couple of those anglers in action. We were going to fish the ones, a couple of Table Rock ones here, but we had some schedule conflict, so we decided we're not going to do that. And I might jackpot a couple of Toyota events. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about that. I was thinking about doing like the Ozarks, but I'm about half backing out because of the weather and the way that lake's been up there, frozen and so low, you know.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I'm still going to be doing lots of fishing.
Yeah, definitely. So Dardanelle, how do you like that place? Because that's where one of the Toyota tournaments are, and I think it's in May.
I've had 2 or 3 real good tournaments on Dardanelle, and then I've had some about that many poor ones too. You know, so it's it's a good lake. It's, you know, it gets pressure, a tremendous amount of pressure, and but it's got a lot of quality fish in it. So May they'll be post spawn. They'll be just getting off the beds down there, and they'll be you know, there'll be some good top water fishing. Buzz baits in top waters will be good. Some square bill fishing, a lot of shallow fish. You know, they catch them out of the water weeds along the edges down there that time of the year, and it'll be a good tournament. There'll be some good stringers caught.
Yeah,
I fished a
definitely with
tournament
this.
down there. I fished a tournament down there. I think the last tournament I fished on Dardanelle a few years ago was about that time of year, and I had a money finish. I don't remember where it was at, where I finished exactly, but I caught one of them wacky worm down there.
Hmm.
You know, there was just still a lot of shallow fish, and I just piddled around with a wacky worm and caught enough to make a good check.
Yeah, we've had a since I've been in college, we've had tournaments there every fall, and it's been pretty tough every year. And this last year has been the toughest because of all the pressure that there's been, especially
Hmm.
from everyone doing the COVID fishing because they didn't have anything else to do. So
Yeah,
it might be. I think it might be tougher than it has been in the past with the being more pressured and things like that.
it it could be. May's a good time though. You know, I mean, there'll be a lot of shellfish, and there'll be, you know, it'll be better than it was in the fall, I think.
Right.
But
Right,
yeah,
definitely. So another question I had is, guys like me, I'm a junior in college, so I'm getting close to, what I feel like is my peak of my college fishing. And I know a lot of guys like me would love to fish pro like you have for so long. And so what is some advice that you have to guys like me who want to try professional fishing or, trying to make their way?
well, there's two things about it, and it's changed a lot since I first got into it. Things, you know, have changed tremendously with social media and the avenues of reaching people. And you know, when I first started, you know, to meet people, it was a meet and greet thing. We'd do seminars and go to boat shows and in-store promotions and stuff. And it's not that way anymore. It's a lot more social media like what you're doing here. And you're doing the right thing by doing that. You need to just keep promoting yourself that way. Two things you got to do. You got to do fairly well and be fairly consistent in the fishing part of it, but you have to promote yourself and uh, you have to show sponsors that you can promote their products and sell their products for them. Basically, you're a salesman, and you need to be able to go out there and promote products. Find some products that you like, you use, you believe in, and stick with them. You know, and find somebody that's involved with that particular company, and try to, you know, make them believe that you can go out and help them sell product. That's the bottom line. And you know, it just you've got to promote yourself as well as going out there and catching bass. Catching bass is only a part of the equation. You know, it's, if you want to really be successful in the business.
Right, and I've seen a lot of college guys do that, over the past couple of years is try to really start getting into helping out sponsors and, making videos. There's a lot more guys with YouTube channels now trying to promote things and stuff like that. But so I can see a lot of guys trying that, but on the fishing side, you pretty much just be as consistent as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Just you know, be as consistent as you can, and you know, you have to have an open mind and be willing to learn every trick and new thing that comes along, and be able to, learn about the fish, just learn more and more about the fish and their habits, and be consistent in your fish catching. And that, the way you know move heads or get people to watch you is to bring some good stringers of fish across that stage. They notice you if you're doing that, if you can do that more than once, and and then along with the self promotion that you're doing, that's the way to get ahead.
Yeah, and it seems kind of like it's getting more difficult because there's so many guys that have YouTube channels or social media sites, and there's just more and more and more of it. So there's it seems like it's getting thinner of people who will watch your stuff because there's maybe.
Well, it is. There's so many young fellows vying for the few positions that are available, and so it makes it tougher, and that's what the reason that you've just got to work harder than the next guy, and try to put more effort into it, and let those people see that you're serious and really going to work hard at it. And it's not going to be easy. It's never been easy, but I'd say it's going to be a lot harder now than it ever has been.
Right, because there's more guys doing it and just being on
Sure.
social media.
Yeah. Just more competition for the few spots that are available,
Right.
and it's a tough business, but it's a fun business. I mean, it's really enjoyable. I mean, I like the way that I've had it over my career is we do a lot of public meet and greet, and I get to meet people or have met people and talk to them and made friends all over the country. Or actually, I've been fortunate to travel all over the world really and met people everywhere. But today it's almost that you can't do that as much like we used to. I mean, with the COVID thing and things going on, you just can't get out there and meet people and shake their hand and communicate with them face to face like we used to do. Maybe that'll come back. I hope it does. Maybe it'll get better again where you can do more of that kind of stuff, because guys that like to fish, love to talk fishing, love to get around a group and bull crap, and talk fishing. That's just the way it is. And you can't really do that right now. So you've got to do it over social media, and the way you guys are trying to promote yourselves. I think you're doing the best job you can right now. But Anna, like I say, I hope maybe it comes back where we can do more one-on-one or face-to-face, but who knows?
Right. I would love for it to come back because it's a lot better. I like it a lot more to be able to just talk people face to face and have group
Sure.
conversations instead of just sitting behind a computer and trying to post stuff on social media or make videos, stuff like that, or doing this Zoom call like we are. That's one way
Sure.
to do it, but it's harder to get out and meet more people because that's a really important part is meeting people in different companies and whatnot. But I feel like that might be a lot tougher now that there's less in-person meeting opportunities.
Yeah, it is. And, I used to love we'd do seminars, and we'd say a lot of times we'd have 4 or 5 pros up on the stage together, and we'd have a big crowd of people out there, and you get a question and answer series going, and it'll bounce from one pro to the next. And you just really get a lot of interaction with the crowd that way. And then after the thing's over, you all go down in the crowd and meander around and meet people and talk, and that's just great. It's great communication with the public, and people just want how to fish. They want to talk fishing, and it's hard right now, but hopefully it'll get better.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. We've had a tough year with COVID and everything being locked down and whatnot. So it definitely has
Sure.
room to improve, that's for sure.
Well, that's a fact. Yeah, it does. But you guys, you're lucky you got your youth though. You got a lot of fishing ahead of you and a lot to look forward to.
Yep, definitely. A lot of opportunity ahead.
Hmm.
Yep. So, well, that's all I got. You got anything else to add?
Oh, I don't know what it'd be other than just wish everybody a good, happy, safe year, and get out there and get after them, and I like to, I like to, Cole and I got to go fish. We got to go fishing here one day a while back. Had a good time. Went down to Bull Shoals and caught a few nice bass that day. And maybe we will again here before too long. I like fishing with guys like you. I like to go with people that enjoy it and want to learn about it. You know, I like teaching people what little I've learned over the years, and it's fun for me to give back a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely fun to learn. I mean, that day was great. I got to learn a lot, and just I think that getting out and getting to fish with different people can open your eyes to, different things and whatnot. So, I mean, like that day, I got to learn, several different things that maybe, I wouldn't have ever thought of maybe if I was just fishing by myself or with my friends that I always fish with. So,
Sure, I've fished with hundreds and hundreds of people throughout my career, maybe thousands. I don't know how many, but somebody told me one time when I was young, said, try to learn something with every different you get in the boat with, try to learn something from that person. And it'll all add up in the long run. And I think that's right. I think just keep an open mind and try to pick up, even if it's the smallest thing, try to pick up the smallest thing, no matter what it is, about lures, about boat, about anything to do with it. And it'll all come together, if you do that.
yeah, definitely. Little things can add up quick in fishing. That's for sure.
Sure.
Getting that one extra bite even makes a big
Yeah.
difference. So,
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Well, I hope to maybe have you on again soon. If we,
Absolutely. Glad to.
yeah, if we can talk about how this, or after this, our college tournament, see how things go versus how we thought it would. So,
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see. You look back, and see if you're on track or completely off.
yeah, it'd be cool to analyze kind of this, if we can see any change that's happened because of this cold front and the shad kill and whatnot. I think it'd be cool to
Yeah.
maybe try to see
Yeah.
that.
It'll be interesting to look back on this spring because it's unusual. Now, I've seen some springs like this before when we had extremely cold water and a big shad kill, they've been awful tough fishing when that's happened. But that doesn't mean you can't catch some, and it'll be interesting to see how fast it bounces back. Because fishing was pretty good back before this cold spell.
Hmm. Yeah, the water was pretty fairly warm, and we've had a pretty warm week actually, and we're supposed to have a warm week coming up. So hopefully it'll make this cold weather and tough fishing kind of fade away pretty quick.
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, well, I think we're getting close to our time on this, so
Okay, man. Well, I'm glad to be with you.
yeah, I really appreciate you having you on. It's always great to hear from someone with the amount of knowledge that you have. So
Man, it's just a lot of years put into it. I've been a fishing fanatic since I was a little kid, and that was a long time ago. So
yeah,
I just I like doing it. And I still get excited every one I catch.
yeah, it's hard not to, isn't it? All right, well, really appreciate it, and hope you have a great week, and hopefully your tournament goes great this weekend.
Take care of you. Good luck to you and your receiver.
Thank you. Talk to you later.